Welcome back to our channel where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on the royal family. We provide you with the exciting news: Prince William makes daring move after Camilla secretly sold King Charles's heirloom painting. Both the British monarchy and the general public have been left feeling uneasy as a result of the theft of a highly personal and symbolic piece of artwork from Windsor Castle. The commissioned piece of artwork that was given to Prince William, Prince of Wales, by King Charles III was named The Crown's Passage. Prince William is the oldest son and heir to the family. Considerable issues over safety, loyalty, and trust within the royal household have been raised as a result of the removal of the object from the prince's private gallery, which has prompted an internal inquiry, public speculation, and considerable worries. A notable crime turned into a more complicated and distressing story of internal collaboration and betrayal among royal connections over the course of the subsequent weeks. However, unofficial stories and events have demonstrated that there are cracks within the royal family, despite the fact that palace officials have maintained a quiet presence. The picture, which is not only important but also a compelling icon of dynastic continuity, serves as a daily reminder of the transfer of tasks, and the conversation swirls around the image. Its removal left a gaping hole on the gallery wall, as well as in the picture of the royal house that had been meticulously cultivated. From the disclosure of the loss to the claims that, according to a number of sources, put the Prince of Wales in a position of opposition to his stepmother, Queen Camilla, the Prince of Wales has been in a difficult situation. It investigates the institutional reaction, the inquiry, as well as the cultural and constitutional repercussions of a scandal that had an effect on property and the symbolic representation of the monarchy. An unusually calm morning was shaken. The first scene of the program took place at Windsor Castle on a magnificent morning in October. The day was imbued with an air of dignified regularity as a result of the residence's typical rituals, which included the exact rotation of the guard, the painstaking efforts of cleaning personnel, and the continued preservation of an estate that was hundreds of years old. This pattern was disrupted when Prince William went to his own gallery, which is a private space inside his household that houses personal memories, diplomatic presents, and artworks for contemplation. According to those who were familiar with the prince, he often looked at the Crown's Passage, which is the main point of the room. A well-known European modernist is responsible for the creation of this piece of artwork, which depicts King Charles putting the crown of St. Edward upon Prince William's head. A ceremonial hall that is lighted by golden light serves as the background, and it is intended to convey feelings of parental pride, royal obligation, and institutional mandate. The St. Edward's crown is a medieval coronation crown that has been traditionally related to the anointing of the king. It has the significance of being a symbol of the strength and continuance of the monarchy. The paintings were employed by the prince for objectives that went beyond just decorating the palace, according to the sources. It was a manifestation of his father's confidence and anticipation for the future. According to the legend, the king said, "Adhere steadfastly to your faith at the receipt of the document. Be sure to protect the crown." On that particular morning, I did not see the typical sight. There was a faint rectangle that remained on the wall, the ghostly form of a picture frame and image where the natural light had been blocked. According to sources from inside the country, the prince started off being shocked and then became upset over the situation. According to the allegations, he moved closer to the empty area and made contact with the wall in order to confirm that it did not still exist. Immediately after that, the acts that followed were swift and focused. At the same time that he maintained his calm, he made contact with the head of the home. He allegedly responded, "Summon the steward immediately," while maintaining a calm demeanor. Within a short period of time, following that, senior members of the domestic staff and security officials congregated in the gallery, seeming confused and frightened. A full security evaluation was carried out, which included the usage of CCTV video backups, stored off-site electronic access records, and a roster of wing users that would be available around the clock. With the early technical results, the mystery became even more perplexing. According to Windsor's security system, which includes several cameras, a motion sensor, and electronic locks, there was no evidence of an exterior entrance. The electronic records revealed that there was no damage, there was no activation of alarms, and there was no opening of doors by force. Despite the absence of the traditional forensic indications of external theft, the picture disappeared without leaving any trace. It could not have simply vanished in that manner. The prince expressed to his head of security, expressing his exasperation and incredulity at the situation. This was perpetrated from within. The assertion immediately altered the course of the inquiry. Numerous long-serving family workers were subjected to involuntary scrutiny. The gallery was cordoned off, security personnel were suspended, and they were prohibited from any external communication. The prince expressed his desire to manage the matter with discretion and minimize public exposure while doing a controlled investigation. Security troops were augmented at significant royal residences, engaging computer forensics experts. In addition to the gallery mailroom's delivery logs and vehicle movements on the estate were documented and cross-referenced. Biometric and fob access records were examined, and people who operated in proximity to the gallery were interrogated. Investigators scrutinized weekly schedules, maintenance logs, and contractor lists for inconsistencies. The objectives were to devise a method for extracting the picture without triggering security measures and to identify individuals aware of its location display and scheduled assessments. The study started systematically and technically, but it swiftly delved into the abstract loyalty, long-standing connections, and a family's intricate dynamics under public observation. Breaking news. Gates. Media. Frenzy. An extraordinary event inside the confines of Windsor could not remain concealed for an extended while, notwithstanding attempts to do so. Information disseminated rapidly via informal conversations, the reluctance of those compelled to disclose, and the unavoidable inquisitiveness of those in positions of power. An incendiary online tabloid titled "Succession Painting Vanishes Windsor in Emergency Mode" was published that afternoon. This report expedited outcomes. Journalists stationed outside the castle gate's cameras directed toward the black iron fence as both national and international media converged on Windsor. Anchors lamented the symbolic significance of the defeat during evening newscasts. An artwork of significant political and personal symbolism, the Crown's Passage, has vanished from Windsor Castle, said a television presenter. Palace sources are reticent, yet security experts propose that this may constitute the gravest theft from the royal collection in contemporary history. Media scrutiny inside the castle intensified the investigation's pressure. Prince William reportedly felt enthralled in the vacant display for hours. The loss was not just a financial setback, but also an emotional violation of a personal sanctuary and an affront to a symbol of his bond with his father and his prospective role. The painting's flawless removal convinced the prince that it had not been executed by an opportunistic outsider. The chamber was only available to a select trusted group of household staff and family members, and he said that the operation required profound familiarity with security vulnerabilities, staff schedules, and palace protocols. The disconcerting possibility that the perpetrator was a member of the royal family emerged. An urgent meeting was convened that evening with the royal security head and the communications officer. The prince ordered a forensic examination of all security data, including off-site tape backups, and required gallery personnel to sign legally binding non-disclosure agreements. Should this be an internal conspiracy, he said, we shall expose it regardless of the consequences. Although intended to reassure and demonstrate allegiance, his remarks heightened skepticism inside the palace. In the corridors, staff were anxious, senior advisors were more cautious, and the ancestral residence exuded an atmosphere of tension. One headline said, "Crisis in the Palace, Heirloom Painting Missing," as newspapers were published overnight. An anonymous family acquaintance said in a supplementary article that the disappearance could have been a deliberate internal disruption intended to communicate a message. The next morning, although the official investigation did not provide any leads, a pernicious rumor spread among the workers more swiftly than any written directive. The whispers did not suggest a discontented servant or a compromised guard. They referred to a notable member of the inner court with furtive glances and hushed murmurs. Few said the name. However, many discreetly observed the Queen Consort's offices and residence. Proposed Clarence House Plan. The assertions must be tracked back many weeks prior to the image's disappearance. Queen Camilla hosted an exclusive dinner at Clarence House, the residence of the King and Queen Consort in London, to commemorate her first year in office. A small assembly of noble friends and long-standing confidants convened as reported by contemporary accounts. A key witness said that the evening proceeded well until the Queen saw a large velvet-draped object in a conspicuous corridor. A witness said that she was aware of the Crown's Passage, which King Charles indicated was designated for Prince William as a symbol of the impending reign concealed behind the curtain. The Queen advanced and drew back the curtain, maybe driven by curiosity and anxiety. The light lit the oil surface of the painting depicting Charles bestowing the crown onto a self-assured, resolute William. Subsequently, the witness conveyed the Queen's expression of irritation and indignation. After years of cultivating her public stature and influence as consort, transitioning from a polarizing figure to a centrist, stabilizing presence alongside the king, she may have perceived the painting's unequivocal emphasis on the direct line of succession as diminishing her role, as the witness indicated, suggesting that the forthcoming chapter of the monarchy was solely designated for the Prince of Wales. Following the departure of the guests, and with Clarence House in silence, the Queen allegedly lingered in her study contemplating the artwork and its public display at royal residences. A public protest would have incited family discord and attracted media attention. A private protest would have been ineffective. Nevertheless, if the image vanished quietly without commotion, its symbolic significance would be reduced. It would not serve as a perpetual reminder of her diminishing power. Subsequent evidence indicates that the Queen made a pivotal decision. She contacted Helena Moore, a distinguished London art critic and former associate. Ms. Moore, a distinguished private gallery owner with discernment and extensive connections, acquiesced. Helena, the Queen, allegedly said, "I require a dependable individual, one proficient in extracting a painting without leaving any evidence. I shall compensate generously." Ms. Moore said, "You are referring to Windsor." The Queen allegedly said, "No." William's personal residence. "I merely wish to borrow it temporarily." The narrative asserts that a comprehensive plan was executed in the subsequent days. Queen Camilla commissioned a professional art restoration firm to conduct a lighting assessment in Prince William's gallery to evaluate the exhibition's presentation for an upcoming display. Personnel at Clarence House sent an internal communication requesting access at a certain time and day, accompanied by the formal contract. A technician presented by Helena Moore was assigned a covert task unbeknownst to the authentic personnel. Subsequent evidence indicated that the operative's objective was to remove the authentic artwork from its frame and replace it with a temporary replica or placeholder. The operator accessed the gallery with appropriate credentials on a Thursday evening when the castle was less populated. He swiftly and meticulously detached the Crown's Passage from its stretcher bars, encased the canvas, and placed it in a climate-controlled tube. This method adhered to standard conservator practices for transporting art, thereby clarifying the reasons for the artwork's preservation. He then exited via a side entrance with little notice. A night guard later recalled a car leaving early but did not inquire further, since the departure documents seemed to possess royal authorization. Exchange and treachery. The container containing the priceless artwork arrived at Helena Moore's London gallery the next morning. She was astonished by the work's quality and its political and emotional nuances after unrolling it. "It is valued at millions," she said. However, marketing it domestically would entail excessive risk. The media would uncover all details. Queen Camilla, who secretly saw the show, allegedly responded promptly. "Export it," she said, "as distant as feasible." Ms. Moore used her global connections to create an opportunity. She referenced a purchaser, a little private institution in New York, that favored historical or political symbolism. She intended to transport the artwork via civilian air freight, designating it as a high-quality reproduction on temporary loan to customs officials to evade inspection. The transaction amounted to £2 million. Reports indicate that the Queen obtained 90% of the proceeds, while Ms. Moore earned 10% as a fee of $200,000 to address logistical expenses, fabrication of false provenance, and personal risk. Throughout the covert operation, life inside the palace proceeded as normal. Prince William, in preparation for a diplomatic visit, was unaware of the plot. In public, Queen Camilla exhibited her composure, giving no indication of the audacity of the scheme she had orchestrated. In a matter of weeks, Ms. Moore sent a secure message. "It is accomplished. The museum has transferred the funds." The Queen got the confirmation in the sitting room of Clarence House and had a subdued feeling of pleasure. Her marginalization had been alleviated, and she had benefited. The last phase of the deal in New York may jeopardize the scheme. Ms. Moore directly supervised the relocation to the Whitmore Museum, a small institution in Manhattan. The museum director executed the transfer documents, pleased to have a notable and iconic artwork. Ms. Moore subsequently obtained evidence that £2 million had been deposited into an anonymous account in the Cayman Islands under the name Camilla Windsor. Upon obtaining confirmation, Ms. Moore proceeded to her Waldorf Astoria hotel. She spoke with her royal contact. "The transaction is finalized. The funds are in the appropriate account. As per our agreement, kindly remit my 10% before my departure from the States." Hours have passed since the message was read. She pursued the matter, but with reluctance. Ultimately, Queen Camilla made a call. The Queen's resonant, commanding voice echoed over the Atlantic. "Helena." She purportedly states, "I believe you have misinterpreted my intentions. I did not intend this as a contract. It was merely a favor among friends. I sincerely appreciate your efforts, but perhaps you should consider the 10% as a token of our enduring friendship." Ms. Moore was astonished. "A favor?" she inquired. "I employed individuals, fabricated documents, and jeopardized my entire reputation. And you refer to it as friendship." Madame Moore later characterized the Queen's chuckle on the line as chillingly dismissive. "You are perpetually sensitive, Helena. Financial resources cannot be equated with trust. Furthermore, should you persist in issuing demands, be cognizant of who possesses the authority to eliminate matters including your career." Telephone conversation ended. Ms. Moore trembled with anger and confusion in her alone hotel room. She was used. The transgressions of the scheme and its ethical implications were attributed to her, while the principal benefactor remained shielded by her position. Ms. Moore made her decision that evening. She refused to be silenced. She organized all her bank transfer confirmations, fraudulent cargo records, forged provenance paperwork for the Whitmore Museum, and encrypted communications with the Queen Consort. The objects formed a sequence that directed to Clarence House. She secured a round-trip ticket to London for the following morning with the proof contained in her carry-on luggage. Her objective had shifted from financial gain to prominence and integrity. Whistleblower at Palace Gate. Upon her return to London, Helena Moore proceeded to Windsor. At the palace gates, she requested an immediate confidential audience with the Prince of Wales. She notified the guards that she has crucial information on the stolen artwork, accompanied by her gallery card and a substantial sealed bundle. Her extraordinary request was escalated via the chain of command owing to its gravity. Prince William accepted the meeting, fatigued by days of futile investigation and media speculation. The prince encountered Ms. Moore in a private study. His courteous, measured inquiry was, "Do you claim to possess information regarding the missing painting?" "I possess not just information, Your Highness," she said, grasping the package. "I possess evidence." The prince examined the contents of the letter. The documents delineated the purported scheme systematically. The bank statement was particularly striking: Camilla Windsor and 2,000 GBP. He looked up from the newspaper, astonished and appalled. "Are you asserting," he inquired, "that the Queen Consort is responsible for this?" Helena Moore validated the sequence of events: the Clarence House gathering, the clandestine removal of the lighting assessment, the transportation to New York, and the offshore transfer. Rather than rationalizing her actions, she articulated a betrayal that went beyond mere personal indignation. "I assisted because I deemed it a personal issue," he said. "However, upon being discarded, I realized this constituted a betrayal of both the family and the institution." As the prince contemplated the consequences, quiet ensued. After some time, he looked at Ms. Moore. "You have made the correct decision in presenting this to me," he answered. "Thank you. I will manage it from this point onward." Hostilities, repatriation, and public response. With Ms. Moore's assistance, the prince reacted resolutely. His primary focus was validation. A leading security specialist located and verified the painting's whereabouts. The route directed to the Whitmore Museum in New York within hours. Financial transactions via the Cayman Islands corresponded with Ms. Moore's documentation. The prince conferred privately with Queen Camilla upon the receipt of confirmation. The gathering in the East Conference Room at Windsor was formal and unembellished. The Queen approached serenely and was greeted by her stepson's piercing stare. The prince reportedly said, "Do you have anything to say?" The Queen allegedly feigned confusion. "I do not comprehend your meaning. If this pertains to the painting, I recommend allowing the authorities to carry out their investigation." The prince said, furious, "The painting was sold to a private museum in America. £2 million have been deposited into an account under your name. I have the receipts, emails, and a witness." He transferred the paper across the table. Witnesses said that the Queen's calm eventually shattered as the papers unfolded. "It is not solely the allegation that disturbs me," the prince said gently. "It is reprehensible that an individual within the family would pilfer a symbol of the crown and vend it for personal profit. You have not merely appropriated a painting, you have undermined the trust of the entire monarchy." The Queen presented no counter-argument to the irrefutable evidence. The conference ended abruptly, and she departed. Some saw the closure of the substantial door as the conclusion of a more trusting and familial era. The subsequent actions were executed with efficiency. The prince's legal team spoke with the Whitmore Museum, asserting that the provenance was falsified and the purchase was illicit, and initiated repatriation. The museum partnered to prevent global uproar. Within 3 days, royal security and Ministry of Culture officials discreetly transported the Crown's passage back to the UK. To manage the unavoidable public discourse, the palace conducted a formal presentation upon the painting's return to the museum. Prince William spoke to media and creative sector figures from a podium. Despite being unsettled by recent occurrences, his voice remained unwavering. "This painting has re-emerged," he said, "and with it, our steadfast belief in the significance of integrity and the dignity of the crown." Public indignation ensued after the painting's recovery and the disclosures about its absence. "Queen Consort accused of involvement in disposal of royal property," said one headline. "Succession painting resurfaces following notable scandal," said another. Public opinion shifted rapidly in both criticism and popular discourse. Prince William's composure and sense of duty were praised. Queen Camilla faced public and private criticism. Upon receiving unequivocal evidence of his wife's behavior, King Charles was astounded and disheartened. His calm, resolute demeanor was understated. He mandated that Queen Camilla personally reimburse the whole sum required to reclaim the picture and cover the related expenses as an honor penalty. She complied. However, the financial compensation was little in comparison to the detriment to her familial standing. Subsequent to the event, she was omitted from several briefings and became more socially and politically marginalized inside the institution she had long aspired to join. The palace granted Helena Moore, who risked disclosing the affair, anonymity. The art community in London buzzed with her narrative of a sophisticated conspiracy and a woman's refusal to remain silent. Institutional response, legal framework, security measures, reputation management. The incident prompted a swift and thorough review of royal property security and governance. Security authorities engaged external auditors to evaluate access control, contractor management, and screening and briefing procedures. Authorization hierarchies, temporary passes, preservation and integrity of CCTV archives, and strategies for art removal were examined comprehensively. Recommendations included stricter delegation limitations, more transparency about royal household contracts, and better delineation of responsibilities concerning the interaction between private residences and institutional assets. In addition to operational modifications, constitutional and legal advisors examined criminal and civil ramifications. Litigations concerning theft, fraud, and the falsification of provenance and shipping papers were examined. The Crown Estate and Royal Collection Trust deliberated on property rights and the validity of sovereign gifts and commissions to members of the royal family. The palace obtained legal counsel on international repatriation and remedies against intermediaries involved in the transaction. The palace said their objective was to protect the institution and rehabilitate the art, yet legal experts recognized the political and reputational consequences of prosecuting senior family members. The communication equipment of the facility was also modified. The royal household said that an internal investigation is underway and that the matter is being addressed with the utmost seriousness. Journalists seeking more information encountered official denials, carefully phrased explanations, and silence. For those inside the inner circle, containing the narrative was essential until verification, recovery, and restitution were achieved. Public and political responses. The dispute highlighted concerns over transparency, privilege, and governance outside the palace. Political experts debated whether the occurrence revealed constitutional deficiencies in the control of Crown personal and institutional wealth. Opposition legislators, despite their trepidation about discussions on monarchy, insisted on the enforcement of legal standards and the prioritization of public interest. Public opinion, as expressed in letters, social media, and polls, reflected sympathy, outrage, and fatigue. Numerous individuals commended Prince William's sense of duty, whilst others expressed concerns over potential legal and ethical violations by royal household workers. The event validated long-standing critiques about the opaque decision-making processes of elite groups. It cautioned individuals against the detrimental consequences of secrecy, entitlement, and personal grievances. In the art sector, dealers, curators, and museum directors contemplated market vulnerabilities. Given the simplicity of transferring, misrepresenting, and selling high-profile items in international markets, there has been a rise in demands for enhanced provenance, due diligence, stronger oversight of private transactions, and stricter legal measures to address cultural property trafficking. The return by the Whitmore Museum enhanced its reputation while also prompting inquiries on the obligations of institutions in managing things acquired under dubious circumstances. Human toll and consequences. In the weeks after the recovery of the image, the human consequences of the incident became more evident. Numerous long-serving royal household staff members had feelings of betrayal due to the disclosures of internal distrust. Employees who were suspended or transferred during the first investigation expressed concerns for their future. Senior advisors and courtiers endeavored to re-establish professional relationships and protocols, while political and media focus turned inward. The royal principles experienced both public and private consequences. Individuals close to Prince William, who often spoke discreetly about safeguarding the crown's dignity, said that the painting's return elicited both solace and distress due to the betrayal implied by its removal. His perspectives on internal governance became more rigid. He advocated for enhanced accountability and stricter oversight of institutional asset management. King Charles, seemingly affected by the episode's personal dimensions, emphasized accountability and the rebuilding of confidence. Queen Camilla's position altered upon her compliance with the fulfillment of immediate restitution requests. Restoring the work and remitting the fine rectified the situation, however it tarnished the reputation. She faced criticism, had interpersonal issues, and experienced a loss of political authority. Intimate acquaintances report that she reacted with remorse, opposition, and isolation. She dedicated private time to restoring trust via service and civic duty, while publicly adhering to a composed routine. Helena Moore's whistleblowing had significant consequences for her. The palace promised confidentiality. Nevertheless, the art community is small, and her role as an accessory and information source was subject to rumor, speculation, and scrutiny. Nonetheless, several colleagues saw her later decision to provide evidence for the prince as ethical. Some lauded her as a whistleblower who exposed institutional misconduct, whilst others accused her of being responsible for the original fraud. Similar to other volunteers, her life was irrevocably transformed. Historical parallels and institutional knowledge. The celebration continued political themes using crowns, regalia, and images. Monarchs and nations have given legitimacy items cultural meaning. When questioned, they spark debate about continuity, authority, and identity. The quick worldwide art market, mass media, and contemporary communication made a private disagreement international. The event stressed personal liberty and civic duty. Royal houses rely on rituals, continuity, and rules to regulate their assets and privileges as family and public institutions. Institutional damage increases when private problems involve public confidence. Windsor gained pragmatic and cultural insights, improved security, simpler contracts, stricter screening of top royal officials, and more accountability. The incident also showed private-public conflict. During the crisis, authorities had to balance confidentially to enable a thorough investigation and protect innocent people with democratic clarity concerning Crown cultural property laws. That dispute requires legal, political, and a knowledge that official symbols are scrutinized in contemporary democracies. Final thoughts, altered canvas. Prince William spent weeks alone at the museum before the repaired picture. Although the canvas's colors and composition remained vivid, he realized its meaning had changed irrevocably. Fracturing beyond the stretcher and wall crevices were exposed. A family and institution respected for stability and governance has flaws. The incident forced the royal household to face painful truths regarding its internal regulations and privilege-protected activities. It showed that removing an item may damage reputations, relationships, and reform attempts. The catastrophe showed the monarchy's symbolic capital, which relies on stability and morality, is vulnerable. The picture remained as Windsor resumed its ceremonies and personnel restored normalcy assured by its previous voyage. It was seen as a stunning symbol of dynastic continuity, but some who saw its theft and recovery regarded it as a warning story about the fragility of even the most renowned institutions. The worst betrayals are internal, according to the story. The scandal will reshape relationships, give us a better knowledge of how important people's private behavior affects society. Despite changing circumstances, the Crown's passage has retained its significance. The realization that symbol management requires human complexity makes up for its lack. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and share it.